thanks for agreeing to do this. Let me kind of set up a little bit, let you guys know what we're up to.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys have probably been in the same gym together since 1988, my guess. Maybe I know Russ and Bill played college together, but this is probably your first time together. Right before we got
to be 1991. One of Bill was down in Puerto Rico.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
Talk about that.
We were just talking about that.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yep.
At the crab
Be a little
table.
crazy.
Was actually food at the crab table. I forgot about that. You made some money that night.
Wow.
Right before I came on, so we have a Facebook group called Nova Legends, and
Okay.
during the lockdown, we just started posting random high school basketball stuff, Northern Virginia on Facebook, and it was incredible the response that we got. I mean, there was like this need, people just connected about the old basketball games, the relationships they built, the coaches that coached them. I mean, we have albums of all the rosters, pictures of like Bill and Russ playing at Bucknell, Jason playing at Lenore Ryan. It just, we got Charlie Thompson talking to Red Jenkins on the group.
Oh, man.
It's really just, it's really blown up. And so it's been great. So like during Black History Month, we learned that Coach Jim Lewis, who was at South Lakes in the 80s and then was at George Mason Girls and then went to the Mystics. He was the first Black player to play in the Northern Virginia leagues. He played at Groveton. We learned that Pat Toomey, who played at Edison in the late 60s, he was all-state in basketball, football, track. He also wrote the book On Any Given Sunday, which became the movie Any Given Sunday. So we've created this network of former basketball players, coaches, referees, and it's been very powerful. So, I mean, you four players are all excellent players, and you play at the next level. But one thing you guys also did is you also achieved a lot at the high school level. I remember watching you guys play in regionals. I watched 3 of you guys play in states. Sorry, Jason. But I didn't play there either. But the thing that right before I came on the Zoom, Charlie Shelley had just posted on the group that article about how if they wouldn't have held the ball, they would have played the way they played against Mount Vernon early in the year. It wouldn't have been any problem. So, I was going to invite him, but I figured we might lose our momentum if I did that. So anyway, so why 1988? 1988 was an incredible year in terms of talent. I mean, we had, I think in the Final Four, we had at least 4 or 5 Division I players. And then, but not only that, we had Grant Hill and we had Jerome Scott, University of Miami and Duke, and we had Crawford Palmer, who also, got a silver medal with France. 2 NBA players with Hubert and Grant. So the talent level was incredible. And I think, the reason why obviously is the private schools really hadn't starting to really take hold of all the best players. You guys were very happy to play for your public school. You wanted to be Robinson for the regionals. It was so much pride to play. Maybe Episcopal, Flint Hill would have come calling. I just don't think you guys would have taken it that seriously back in those days. Today is a different story. We've been talking a lot about on the group how Chris Kazemka, it was the player of the year in the region, player of the year in the state. He doesn't have a Division I scholarship. I mean, there was probably at least 10 Division I players in the Northern Region in '88. I bet you there was more than that. And then even when I played in '84, we had 8 Division I players just in our 16 Northern district. So I just, times have changed. Also, there were 6 classifications back then. Everyone wins state now. Back when you guys played, there were 3 state championships. It was very hard to get there. You guys, it changed while you guys were in high school. In '86, you had to win the region to go to state. And then I think in '87 was the first year top 2 finishers went to the state tournament. So it was very hard to get there. And then when you got there were so many great teams that you guys had to face, as you guys know. And it was just three of the coaches of this group were just legendary coaches. McCool, Thompson, Martino, 3 of the best coaches in Northern Region history. Mike Wells was an awesome player and was developing himself as a really good coach as well. And so it was just, the stage was set. As you guys remember, Robinson High School, that year especially, I bet you there was 5,500, 6,000 people for those games. I mean, it was packed. It was packed. Usually I get great seats for that game. I went to Robinson. I sat for the Mount Vernon Lake Braddock game. I was in the 3rd row from the back behind the basket. That's how crowded it was. There were no seats. So I just can only imagine you guys, how you felt even, coming out for pregame warmups, what an honor, what the excitement and the buzz was. And I'm sure you guys wanted to do, great things in your career, but I mean, that moment you guys have when you stepped on that court, it just must have been a magical moment. So anyway, I just thought I'd start, we'll go around and you guys can kind of introduce yourselves, where you grew up playing basketball, even travel county, whatever you call it, middle school. And then just quickly bring us up to right before your senior year, how your high school career had went. Why don't we start with, I would call some of you guys coach. Why don't we just start with, I'm gonna call you first name tonight. Why don't we start with Bill? Why don't you get us started on that?
All right. So I moved from Alexandria when I was 10 to Springfield. And when I got to Springfield, my mother enrolled me in the Springfield Youth Club. And in the Springfield Youth Club was the basketball program, obviously, in Springfield. And in 6th grade, they started forming the travel team. I guess they called it county at the time. Yeah. And, the guys they're nodding their heads because I basically been playing against Barry and Jason since 6th grade. And in 6th grade, I was able to make the county team. 7th grade, played a little bit more. 8th grade, got injured, but still was on the county team. But I wasn't one of the best guys. The funny part about it is my high school team were all those guys that played county in 6th, 7th, 8th grade with a couple additions. So we had been playing together since we were like 11 years old. And then went to Lee High School. I was 5'7" as a freshman, skinny kid with an awkward game. I went in there and tried out for the JV team, and Mike Stockdale cut me, right? And it's not a big deal to get cut from freshman, cut from JV as a freshman, except that 5 of my former teammates that were freshmen were on the JV team, and I had to play freshman. So I was upset about that, but I kind of used that as motivation. That kind of, kicked it into another gear for me. I grew a couple inches over the summer. I go to Coach Thompson. I never forget it. I was playing very well in the spring. And I was like, Coach Thompson, thinking, hey, I'm gonna be on the varsity summer league team. I'm hooping now. I'm the man, right? And I said, Coach, what, should I go to varsity to the games, down to the Sidwell Friends Summer League? He like, nah. He said, you played freshman last year, right? I'm like, yeah. He said, yeah, you gonna play JV Summer League. I was crushed. I was like, oh man, this dude really gonna put me in the JV Summer League again. So I went down to Sidwell and tore it up in the JV Summer League. And by the time the year began, I was actually on the varsity with 5 of my fellow sophomores who became the starters my senior year. And we all played varsity as a sophomore. I didn't get much playing time. And then kind of the one pivotal moment, as you look back upon your career, one pivotal moment for me was we were undefeated. I think we were 4-0 or something, or maybe 4-1. And we were in the Christmas tournament against Bishop Ireton. And Bishop Ireton had a squad. They had, Sean Smith and
Chris Simpson.
Big Bob, no, Bishop Ireton, Big Bob Pollard.
Oh yeah. And Brad Turnell.
Yeah, they had a crowd. Horace Scruggs, the freshman. So they were very, very talented. And we were like undefeated. And we were playing them in the Christmas tournament, and we're down like 5. So I get in the game, skinny sophomore. I get a couple steals laid in. I'm playing really well, flying all over the floor, feeling good. We're down 1 point, all right? And Stevie Carroll was the star of our team when I was a sophomore. Stevie gets double teamed at half court, right? It's like 4 seconds to go, 3 seconds to go. I flash underneath the basket, catch the ball for the game winner. I smoked the layup, missed the layup. Devastated. Like one of the seniors came in and goes, hey, Bill, thanks for ruining our undefeated season. I'm like, man, right? And so that was kind of the pivotal moment for me. Like, I never really wanted to kind of be that again. So I, had incredible motivation to become a good player, and just really, really worked really hard. By the time we were juniors, our whole team was juniors. Those guys we've been growing up with playing. And then right before our senior year, something happened that changed the trajectory of the team that we could be. It was the introduction of the 3-point line. And that changed everything for Lee at that time.
Yeah. It's funny because Bill, when you're talking about how you're getting better, I saw your progression because I was older than you, and I see you at Scheidenstrecker, and every year you would get better. I mean, first you were that kid with the feet that stuck out, and you weren't that fast. And, we were older. I was 4 years older and stronger, and every year you got tougher and tougher, and finally, I couldn't check you anymore. So, yeah. So Coleman, Jason's one of my best friends. My father married him and Kara, and I really appreciate him helping set this thing up. So Jason's a guy I didn't know as well in high school. I knew Hubert really well because his dad and my dad were golf partners. But I played a lot of ball with Jason, and he was a guy also. always kind of in the shadow of Hubert, but everyone knew, what kind of player he was as well. So Coleman, why don't you go next?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, Julian, thanks so much for having us and putting this together. I've been watching a couple of these. I'm not on Facebook. That is by design. But it's pretty incredible, this group that's assembled, and just hearing the amazing stories that have come out of, Northern Virginia. Just to be a part of this is, pretty awesome. So thanks for having us.
Sure.
And I know I won't do you justice, but I'll try, as I've already created some drama just getting this together. So, like Bill, my journey started early as well, elementary school. He was only off by 1 year. I came in town back from Germany the first time I'd been there, being a military brat. My father wanted to make sure, I got plugged into basketball because I was always going to be the next Pele. I mean, you couldn't get me off the soccer field, the pitch, as we called it. And so I played travel soccer. I mean, that was my go-to. So my soccer coach, I played for Little River, by the way, on the B team. I wasn't on the A team, but I was still going to be Pele. But my basketball coach, our soccer coach, coached basketball as well, and it was in the rec league. So 5th and 6th grade, I actually played in the rec league. And because I excelled and, pretty much made the all-star teams each year, he said, well, why don't you go out for the travel, counting, as it was called. And I said, well, so went out, gave it a shot. And during the tryout, it was interesting because, I was Braddock Road is the group that I tried out for. And everybody was looking at me like, who's this new dude thinking he can do a little something and come in here like he's going to take my spot or something. But needless to say, made the team. And so I was on the Braddock Road team. And that was with a group of guys from Burke, which was made up of both Lake Braddock and Robinson players. So, Peter Zophi, Chris Ely were a couple that played with us. And then Cliff Krug, Jay Vanell, you've already mentioned Charlie Shelley. Even though he came to Lake Braddock, he was actually one of our arch rivals playing over at the Springfield club. But that's what really got it going. And of course, Hubert was on our Braddock Road team. And, just his namesake, man, I got to meet his uncle along the way, Sweet D, Walter Davis. And, he shot the lights out even way back then. So, going into high school, we were, sort of this highly talented class. And, people were excited to have us come in. And so our freshman year, we had just an unbelievable team. And some folks thought, we'd have different paths. Well, Hubert did end up playing on the JV team. And I stayed on the freshman team, which was a great part of my development, no question, because it was all court time. And Hubert blew it up on the JV team. And so going into our sophomore years, we were both asked to play on the varsity and for the summer league, as Bill alluded to. But we played in the St. Stephen's League. And so I tell you, you talk about the sweat box and just going to a place in the summers and just getting it in. I mean, those games were just legendary. And it was just awesome to be a part of that. So that would kind of set the stage, going into, that varsity season. And so we were really fortunate to be able to, have the guys that we were playing against, playing with, again, the Charlie Shelleys and Jay Vanell and the likes. But so that's my journey up into the high school.
Yeah, your team, and every year you guys, well, at least your sophomore and junior year, you guys are highly rated. I mean, everyone was afraid of you guys because your lineup was so awesome. You had size and you had outside shooting, obviously, as well. So Barry, why don't you go next? So I played against Frank Smith in high school, and Frank was like a god. It was Frank and Tommy Hammer. I mean, these guys were on another level. When I played, they both were just great guys, handled themselves with such class. Neither one of them guys talked a lot, but they were just incredible players. Barry came along, and he had big shoes to fill, and he got it done. He got his team, right back to where Frank had gotten his team, and it's not easy to do that. So I never really met Barry, even though I refereed your games, I think, when you first got into coaching. But I knew exactly who you were because I had watched you and competed against Frank. Did you also grow up in the Alexandria recreational leagues, or did you guys move over to to Fairfax before that?
No, I grew up on Alexandria, Delray, right there. I'm pretty sure I started the '84 podcast. So no, they didn't buy us a house. Let's be a coach at that. But yeah, I grew up Alexandria, and we didn't have daycare, so wherever Frank went, I went. So when he was on the basketball court, they needed a 10th player or whatever, I was on the basketball court. So I got the ball in my hand at a young age, and whatever he did, wanted to be like him. So I grew up in the city of Alexandria, played at Court Kelly Rec, because that was our neighborhood. And funny story about the neighborhood there. Normally where you lived is where you went to the recreational center. Well, Frank went to Hammond, and Frank always won number 10. So I won number 10. He gets to Hammond, and when basketball season starts, he couldn't wear 14 because he was an 8th grader playing freshman. So someone else was wearing 10. I'm sorry, he couldn't wear 10, so he had to wear 14. So I go to my little league coach, and at that time I'm in the 4th grade. I want to wear 14. He wouldn't let me wear it. So I go home, I'm crying, I don't even want to play. They wouldn't let me quit. So I played that season with Court Kelly. And at the end of that season, a friend of mine who moved to the South Side at Nanny J. Lee, they had like a little game going on against a team from Newport News. So they asked me to play. So I go there and I play. And they said, what number you want to wear? I was like, 14. So they let me wear number 14. So I go home and I said, guess what? I'm not playing with Court Kelly next year. I'm playing with Lee. So because they let me wear 14. So I never shied away from following in Frank's footsteps. Whatever number he wore, I wore. He go to Old Dominion, wear 15, I wear 15. So but grew up in Alexandria. We moved down, go to Mount Vernon, County League, got that started. Like I said, I've been playing against those guys. Wow, it was 6th, 7th grade I started because and our county team was loaded. We won the championship. I think we beat Jason's team. I think was in the championship that year, 7th grade. And then the following year we was undefeated again, but then we lost to the team from Vienna with Charles Wingington, who was tough. Oh my God, that guy was tough. And they had some guys who went over to Madison, and then get to Mount Vernon, playing the summer league. I didn't play varsity as a sophomore. So some things happened there. I didn't quite put the time in that I should have, and so played Xavier as a sophomore.
They had a lot of guards. They had Mark Cottom, and they got a few of the guards probably.
Mark was there. We had a lot of bodies, but I got moved up at the end, and I'm practicing with them, and I was like, I should have been here, but it was my own fault. I did. It was something. I had some disagreements with the class members of '86. So we always didn't agree upon some things. So I let them have their time, and but my junior year, I played football, and then coming to my junior year, I got off to a slow start, and I didn't start my junior year until we went over to Braddock and played them. They were undefeated at that time, so we went over there and we beat Braddock my junior year. And I started from that point on. Although they returned the favor by beating the brakes off of us my senior year, when they came over, we were undefeated. That game was ugly. But playing for Coach McCool, man, I learned so much. And Coach Steele, I got to give him credit. Derek Steele, who's a starting point on the '79 state team. I got to have to give Derek credit because I didn't really have a backup point guard my senior year. So Derek practiced with us every day, and that was hell. But I learned a lot from him, going against him every day. So big shout out to Derek Steele.
Yeah, great player. So Russ, I didn't know you in high school, but I guess you're out the western part of the county. But I love watching your team play. I think you played with John Havey. It was exactly. You guys were a very well coached, savvy team. Yeah. You guys ran real intricate patterns around the lane and stuff. And tough team to beat. You had a great crowd support. I remember
Absolutely.
that. So why don't you tell us? So you didn't play with these guys. So where did you play pickup? Where did you play?
I'm an Arlington kid, actually, born in Alexandria. My parents went to Wakefield after integration, so I was in that school district. But mom wanted to move dad out of the hood, and we moved out to Chantilly. And I never forget moving and driving along Route 50. And it was a 2-lane highway, and the only thing out there was Fair Oaks Mall. And dad delivered mail to Tommy Amaker. We're Arlington folks, right? And so that was fifth grade. So when I moved out to Chantilly, didn't have an elementary school team. We had one at Randolph Elementary in Arlington. And it was a transition, you know. I was small, you know, Bill, like you mentioned you were 5'7". I was 5'3" in ninth grade. You know, I was trying to touch the backboard, the padding on the backboard, you know, that was my thing. But you know, just worked hard, and there, you know, Fairfax County had their rec league, and so I played with CYA, Chantilly Youth Association, and then just developed, and then we did travel. And you talk about parent support, you know, unlike when I was younger with the Black Knights, you know, the support out there in Fairfax County. I mean, the parents just rolled deep, you know, and you always had a ride. You know, if I needed a ride, a parent would take me, because Dad, you know, he's a deliver mail on Sunday mornings and making that hustle. Mom worked at Geological Survey and Reston. That's why we moved out there. But yeah, so I think with me, with basketball, I was, you know, I was just small and quick, and just, you know, just made the basketball players. As I tell my kids, nothing flashy. And then started playing select and started becoming that playmaker on the select group. But the team in '88, we were led by Mike Brown, you know, and you know, that guy, he just had a way to get to the middle, come to a jump stop, and just create plays. And we didn't belong. You know, we started doing team camps in 10th grade. Went down to Randolph Macon. Martino was Randolph Macon alum. So we would go down there, and back there, you know, folks smoked in the guy, the coordinator, he was smoking in the gym, and we really became a team. I think my 10th grade year, I didn't even try out for varsity as a sophomore, but we would play games before, you know, we played Risk before games, and ping pong, and throw darts. And I'll never forget, you know, not starting because we came to a game late because we had to finish our game of darts. You know, it just, that's how tight we were. And then junior year, we went to 5-star, and I see, you know, Bobby Hurley, Conrad McCray, Jerry Walker going to Seton Hall, and Aaron Bain was in our dorm. I think Aaron Bain was at Flint Hill that year. And I'm like, we can play with these guys, you know, we can play with these guys, you know. So I think Bill's team putting us down like they did after we defeated South Lakes, who, as you mentioned, Grant and Jerome Scott had the crossover before Allen Iverson. I mean, he would cross you over and just rise up. But we went into South Lakes and beat them, and we were riding on cloud nine, and obviously lost to a better team in Lee. But you know, the way we played together, it was fun. It was good, and we still keep in touch. I keep in touch with those guys. I keep in touch with Bill and my buddies, at, you know, my teammates at Bucknell. You know, it's different now, because kids today, you know, they if they don't play, they don't really cheer on. At least, you know, some of the kids I see, that Chantilly squad, Martino, my junior year, I think we went 7 or 8 deep. But the other 7, they were the first ones on the court to give you dap, to give you a towel, to give you water. It was just that type of relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a real honor to be on the varsity team in Chantilly, and all the teams you guys played for. Well, thanks. So Bill, why don't we going into your Russell's already has you guys beating him in the semifinals. So why don't you take us through your senior year? Obviously, you know, your junior year you started finally. Senior year, I know all those kids, you know, also Side Stricker kids. Did you guys have high expectations? I mean, obviously there's South Lakes, there's Washington Lee, there's Lake Braddock. Robinson was they had some size coming back, even though a lot of the kids had graduated. What did you guys think coming into your senior year?
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, we didn't really have a lot of expectation as far as how far we were going to go or how many games we were going to win. You know, the one ace in the hole we had always was Charlie Thompson. And we, you know, would do anything for him, run through a wall. I mean, shit, he had us running through walls half the time. You know, but we knew, you know, he was going to figure it out for us. And again, we had a veteran team, guys that had played together for years. So we knew we were pretty good. And he was one of the first guys, once that 3-point line came in, and said, hey, we're going to use this. And we started the year practicing running fast breaks to the 3-point line and shooting 3-point shots instead of taking layups. And people weren't thinking that way back then because, again, the game of basketball in the 80s was about punch it inside, throw it to the big guy. And we were like, okay, let's do threes.
And that was the
again,
first year, excuse me, Bill, was that the first
Yeah,
year?
that was the
Three
first year,
games,
three.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll get to that even more because, you know, that's people didn't understand what a 3-point line and what a difference it would make. But we knew that, you know, he had good teams. We had never beat Barry and those guys in Mount Vernon. They were the arch rival, but only in our minds because we couldn't beat them, you know. And then Jason, those guys were so talented. We knew Jerome and Grant and those guys at South Lake. So it was a heck of a year. But when I first knew we were going to be good was our first game against Wakefield. And Wakefield was pretty good. Kenyon Hunter was a sophomore on that team. They had some pretty good players. And we ended up beating them by like 35 points,
Wow.
you know, just because of how hard we played. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we actually can be pretty good, you know. And so we got to start thinking that way. You know, we lost a few games on the way. And, you know, the funniest part about all this is, you know, we had such a great team and we never won a championship. We finished the runner-up for districts. We finished the runner-up for Northern Region, and we finished the runner-up losing in the state championship. You know, we played in all the championship. We just lost them all. But obviously to some very, very good teams. But it was a magical year for us. The camaraderie that we built with the guys, the highs and the lows, is something you never forget. And even though we didn't win a ship, we accomplished so many different things. Just an incredible experience. And you talk about the whole thing being in Robinson. When I was a freshman, Lee was at Robinson in the Final Four. And, you know, again, it's my 5'7" freshman self, but a total basketball nut. I remember being at the game and watching it and like, man, I want to play here one day. I want to be in this, right? And so that night, and Jason and Russell know my guy, Mark Travis, he was our assistant freshman coach, right? My man Trav, he's our assistant freshman coach. He used to take me to all the games, take me around the side and circle. You probably even know who he is. You know, he used to take me to every playground. Mm-hmm. And I told Travis that night, we went out in the Robinson parking lot and I said, hey, Trav, turn on your lights so I can get some shots up. So he took his Trans Am, got out there, turned on the lights, and I got shots up. And all I could think about was being at Robinson for the Final Four one year. And so getting to that point was something very, very special to me. Very, very special to be able to get to that point. You know, we did think we were going to play South Lakes. I'm not going to lie, Russ. we had beat them earlier that year. We thought we were playing them again. And then we heard Chantilly, but we was like, who's Chantilly? Who they got?
Yeah.
And we knew about Mike and John Havey because we had played those guys in the county league. But it was really great to have a chance to be at Robinson at that time.
Yeah. And we went down to St. Stephen's too. Yeah.
So Jason, coming off your junior year, you guys are one of the favorites, but you got upset in the regional tournament in '87. The year Sean and Robinson, almost won the state championship. So coming into your senior year, you kind of moved your lineup around a little bit, right? That's when you went to the point guard for the first time?
Yeah. So I'm going to back up a little more, if that's all right.
Sure.
Just, hearing some of what Bill said reminded me of some of the pieces that fall into, what it took to get to the, bright lights at Robinson. But even before that, there was the, outdoor parks that we played at. Barry mentioned it earlier too. But that grind doesn't really happen as much today. So we had Side and Stricker, Nottaway, and then Lake Braddock on the Sunday evenings. I mean, everybody would come up there with their mob and that's it. You knew you had to stay on that court because if you didn't, you either had to wait it out or, very few would get picked up with that next run, but you figured it out quick. So
I always felt bad when you and Bill went home early.
That must have been in the young days because me and Cole ran the course when we got older.
we ran it though. But, that's part of that maturation process. I think that the guys today don't have, but also, the district tournaments had just as much outpouring, if not definitely more than what you see at the regional final today, because when we were young at Lake Braddock, and I did watch that 84 with Barry's brother, with Frankie, Calvin, and Derek Hensley. And, I remember watching Derek and Big Goose, as we called Derek Turner. And, Vince Santavica, Barry talked about that game where we smacked them at their place earlier in the season. That was my first triple-double, and it was the first triple-double in the school's history. And I was one assist short of Santavica's 13 at Lake Braddock. But anyway.
We was just setting them up, we was just giving you some confidence for later.
Right. Set it up.
Nowhere near triple-double in the regional. That's okay.
I'm going to leave that alone for now. But we set up chairs at the end of Lake Braddock because we didn't have all 4 sets of the bleachers like Robinson, but we had 2 pretty good sides on both sides of the court. But they set up chairs at the end of the court for us so you could get that feel. And when a basket happened, we were all, yeah, our squad's going, and trying to give, Hensley and those guys dap. But, we really had 3 pretty incredible years. And I can't remember, I don't think we lost, it definitely wasn't more than a dozen games in those 3 years we played varsity, but I think it was 9. And so even our sophomore year, there was some high expectations for us, and we were bumped out of going to Robinson that year by, it was Herndon. And then going into our junior year, same thing, high expectations, but the Hayfield squad got us with, Marvin Miles and Malisham and those cats. But
Trailer.
And Traeger, Richie Traeger, I think.
No,
Trailer. Deontay.
Trailer came to
Yeah, that's right. And of course, then that senior year, there was a lot of expectation, and most people thought it was going to be us or either W&L or South Lakes, and we certainly thought that too. In fact, I hope I don't get anybody in trouble, but we had buses rented, we had hotels booked, the whole 9, and man, so we still got to go to the state tournament, but
You're watching with me.
it was not the way we had intended, not seeing the court, but that was disappointing for a lot of different reasons. And, I didn't realize it at the time. And, some of you guys know my story with my family now, but we lost one of our children. It'll be 4 years ago, Thursday. But, I reached out to Hubert, it was several months after that to say, man, I am so sorry. And it was something that I didn't comprehend the gravity of it until, we lost a child, our family member, but he lost his mom before our junior season. And he wanted to win that state tournament for his mom. And, here I am, still get flack for it today. I'm the one that took that shot, fell short, and there goes Lorenzo running out, shooting it like he always did.
We're going to get there.
But,
game. Yeah.
What's that?
So we're going to get to the game. We're going to get to that game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad. But anyway.
So who did you guys play? Who did you guys play in the first and second rounds of region to get to the Mount Vernon game? Do you remember? I can't recall.
Man, come on, Jay. Now you dating me real. That memory doesn't work like it used to.
Yeah, I know. Okay. That was
I think the first round game had to be against one of our. You were mentioned against us, so it had to be either West. Wasn't West Potomac.
Herndon was the second one before we went over.
Who finished 4th? See, it must have been. I want to say Hayfield. We played Hayfield the first game.
Yeah, we might have. Yeah, but Herndon was definitely the one before we went over to.
Because y'all would match up with our district because we played Woodson, and you guys. Yeah, so you played Hayfield.
Okay.
See, that's one thing that happened when you guys were in high school. There was a 3-pointer. There was also when they added 4 teams to the regional tournament. So what that did was all you had to do was get to the semifinals of district, and you're automatically still alive.
Right.
It took all the steam away from the district tournament because when I was playing, only 2 teams went. So if the team that won the regular season didn't get to the final of district tournament, that means you had to win the district tournament to go to regionals because the regular season winner was guaranteed a spot. And they also had a playback game if there was a different winner. So a district tournament was drama. It was just as much drama as the regional tournament, and that went away when you add 4 teams to the regionals. But what can you do?
Well, we still had the playback game that year.
You said the playback game, okay?
Yeah, because we slipped up and lost to West Potomac.
Right.
Yeah, because I threw the ball away. McCool had a nice play, but I saw something that different than what he saw. I threw it away. We ended up losing West Potomac by 1.
McCool's usually right, but let's get back to your team, Barry. So you guys had a small team. You had Traeger, you had Lorenzo, and you had a guy shooting out. You had David Taylor, who was 6'4", but he was more of an outside player, right?
Well, Dave's athletic. He can shoot outside of Dave about 12 to 15 feet. Mm-hmm. Had a nice little bank shot. Now center was Norm Braxton, who was the heart of our team. Braxton was 6'1", jump out the gym, finished 3rd in the state in high jump that year. And so he's pretty much the rock. He kept everything together. We went about 7 deep. we come off the bench with Junior Richardson, who was a 6'4", 6'5", and Greg Bill, who was a 6'2" shooter. So that's about as deep as we went.
Yeah.
And it was again, we've been playing together for years.
Yeah. And you beat Brian Hill's team, Mackin, during the regular season.
Yes, yeah.
He mentioned that on the group. Yeah. So you had some big wins.
Yeah, Brian had a nice dunk on me, which was actually trying to be Braxton's fault. I'm stepping over, taking charge, which I was supposed to do, making a basketball play. And he dunked on me and hung on the rim and everything else. And it called a block. And now I'm laying in a fetal position, like, damn, I just get dunked on in my own gym.
Exactly.
That's a great game. Also, they had Kurt Smith on their team and Chris Felix.
Yeah, that was a big win. That was a front page. That was a front page upset.
Yeah, well, we shot the ball. We came out and we shot the ball well, and we got off to a good start that night. And to Bill's credit, while nobody, he's saying that Charlie used a 3-point line for them. Well, Coach McCool, I guess he was always a step ahead of everybody. He came and said, "Look, we're gonna go to a max up zone. We didn't play zone at Mount Vernon. We always played man. So we're gonna play max up zone and we're gonna guard the 3-point line." So that was his philosophy. That was his thinking. And then for us being the size we were, we still get rebounds and we can get out and run.
Yeah. So, Russell, did you want to add anything about your senior season? Because you talked a little bit about it before. Did you want to add any more to it?
I mean, 8-8 was my junior year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In that, but the loss to Bill, really changed my trajectory because it made me want more, right? And one game away, like you said, 2 years ago, they started taking the top 2 to the states, and so we went down the states. It was two cars, maybe 2 vans went down, and I remember getting in the Red Roof Inn, and me and Havy, Dwayne didn't play much as a junior, but we were already thinking about '89, and right. George Lynch was down at Bill, and the Northern Virginia teams, Alonzo too, right? Alonzo was there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was there.
And that was, and so that was our drive then, and we were, that year we switched districts, so we knew South Lakes was gonna want us, so now we went from our district to the Great Falls district, and Bill, you talk about losing every championship, right? So I couldn't get past Grant, his junior year, but after beating them before we played Robinson, we had to shower with those guys. Reston had an issue with their plumbing. So, Jerome is in the bathroom crying, they're crying and we're bathing very quiet. We're trying to stay quiet.
That's messed up, bro.
It was awkward. It was so awkward, right? We had to share the bathroom with those guys after beating them in South Lake. And then against Robinson, again, underdogs. We weren't supposed to win that game. I think they pressured Mike Brown, and I went back door for a layup as time expired. And Bill, I was holding on to that ball for so long. I wanted to make sure I made that layup. It was a 1-point game. Miss, we lose. And then I'm making that at the buzzer, and that put us into the Final Four.
That was 88. That was 88, right?
That was 88.
That was 88. Okay.
That was 88. Yeah, that was 88. And so then, and then seeing Bill as my senior year, he's at college, and just knowing that, it can happen. And that gave me a focus. I started tracking other guys. I think at the time we had the Fairfax Journal, they would do a little thing on the Northern Virginia players and where they are. And, me and my pop, he's like, you can do that, son, because Bill said, I'm an engineer nerd, into the books. And, I said, I'm not going to play ball. I'm going to go ahead and get my engineering degree and do that thing. And it worked out. Senior year was different. I know it's an 88 call, but that senior year was a great year for us.
That was your time.
It was.
Yeah.
I feel bad missing out on all the outdoor basketball games you guys had. We didn't know anything about Side Stricker, Nottaway.
Oh man!
And that could have been by design with McCool because he kept us playing inside. And every day, I mean, that was our job, to work out and play indoors at Mount Vernon. And we had guys come from Alexandria, Oxon Hill. Mike Tate would come over from Oxon Hill and bring his boys. We had guys
Mike Tate married my cousin.
A lot of teams that came that went out Christmas tournament, those guys from DC and Maryland, they would come to our open gym.
Yeah.
So we're playing against these guys, guys up enough from Alexandria, whatever, because Coach McCool helped, as long as you were respectful, the doors open to anybody. And so it was like, why we weren't even thinking about going to a basketball court because we were playing inside nice air-conditioned gym. And then he had us in like 2 or 3 summer leagues. So we were playing at St. Stephen's, or we was out playing out in Fairfax. So
you didn't miss Science Sugar. There was no wind protection, so it get windy up there. And only person that could shoot.
He's still trying to make an excuse for that broke jump.
I couldn't shoot in perfect conditions, but yeah, but it was so windy there, nobody could shoot it. It made me feel better. But let's get back to the Final Four real fast. Bill, going into the Chantilly game, you guys must have been pretty confident about the matchup compared to what you could have had in the Final Four, right? Did you guys feel good about the Chantilly matchup?
We did, but at the same time, we were going to be prepared for every game. When you play for Charlie Thompson, there's no slip ups. There's no like taking anybody lightly. You're going to prepare the same way with the scout reports and be prepared for every game. So, while we expected to play South Lakes or one of those squads like that, we were up for the challenge. We know the Chantilly had to have a good team if they were that far. And again, I remember Mike and those guys from County League. And, when I was a scrub, they were really good players. And so we had tremendous respect for those guys.
And what was the score of that game? Was it a close game or
they pulled away? I think they ended up winning by 10 or 12. Yeah. They pulled away. I had to throw the tape in once I got this invitation, so I had to go back and look. I shot Bill a picture, him dribbling the ball, me guarding him. I had to go there, but they were confident. You see Bill warming up with his little swag, and it was cool. It was cool, but they pulled away fourth quarter.
Yeah, we pulled away because we and Russ was talking about it yesterday. That was one of my 5 dunks my senior year. So at the end of the game, I got me a dunk. And it's one of them, I could barely dunk, so I had to cross my legs. I remember the picture in the paper, cross my legs to dunk it. So, but I got it there and got it down though.
Wow, that's cool. So we had a poll on our group, Nova Legends group, and the Mount Vernon Lake Braddock game was voted number 1 upset in the history of the Northern Region.
There was no upset.
So number 2 was the Robinson TC game in '95 regional final. So this game is remembered, and it's not only because a great team like Lake Braddock lost, but the way Mount Vernon did it. They slowed the game down. It went into overtime, and the final score was 37-36. So Jason, going into that game, you guys had beaten Mount Vernon pretty soundly. You only lost 1 game all year, which was out of town in the Christmas tournament. So you guys had to be pretty confident going into the semi.
Yeah, we thought we were very well prepared, and just sort of recapping that season at the beginning of the year, Coach Wells took us down to North Carolina because he wanted us to have an experience out of our normal environment, because he was preparing us for the state tournament at the beginning of the season, and then hopefully we were going to finish up. And so we went down to South Carolina, Winthrop University, and our first game, we played the team, actually they ended up winning. They had a guy, West Charlotte, and he had 40 points on us, and they won by 1 or 2 points. So we lost that game, but we just smoked everybody else throughout the rest of the tournament. And unfortunately, we were in the losers bracket, but that was the only game we had lost going into, that Final Four game. But Coach Wells did a great job of preparing us and just knowing our roles and, what was expected. And, even, we had our, sort of core 5 with, Charlie, Shelley, Jay Bonnell, Hubert, and I forgot, probably, and people Vernon at their place, we beat them by, at one point, I think we were up 30. And, we put the other guys in the game, and, Darius Fenton, who didn't get to play as much, Aaron Lohman, some of the rising juniors that, thought they should be playing more, Elgin Holston, but, they had some opportunities, and some guys had their, high, season points in that game. So, yeah, I think in the back of our minds, and we all know, that's the worst thing that you can have going into a game, being too confident. And so we were prepared. I think the one thing that we weren't prepared for, though, was exactly what they did. And it was excellent execution. And we were kind of waiting and sitting all right, we're really going to do this. But, we tried to buy our time and our moments, and yeah, just
Well, it's something because McCool had pulled off tremendous upsets with the spread. He had beaten Moses Malone in Petersburg. No, I think they lost narrowly. Moses Malone in Petersburg, and then in '79 in the semifinals of state, they beat Mark West's team in Petersburg. They were rated top 10 USA Today all year, or top 10 whatever the rating was back then. And he held the ball. So I don't know who Wells was talking to, but I know people out there knew that McCool had this in him. Barry, did McCool talk about this all week? That it's just something you went out there and you were going to see how it went, or that was always the plan to take the air out of the ball and just hold it as long as you could in that game?
Yeah, once we realized that we were playing, I mean, we had to get through WNL. And my junior year, WNL beat us in the regional quarterfinals, and here we are playing them again, same situation. And we were actually down at half against WNL. And we came back and we won that game. So the coaches were in the coaching office, and we come out and everybody's waiting to hear about the Braddock score. I forgot who Braddock was playing. They was like, well, Braddock won. And so, okay, so now we got Braddock. So, we start thinking now, what are we going to do? How are we going to approach this? And we go to practice the next day. And we've always ran the four corners. Coach McCool was, he was close with Coach Dean Smith at Carolina, and we've had a lot of stuff that Carolina ran. So the four corners was already in our offense, repertoire, so to speak. So when Braddock came out in the 1-3-1, which we thought they would do, we said, okay, we'll just hold it. But actually, the first two times I touched the ball that game, I turned it over. And then Braxton came over and put me in a headlock and said, all right, get your shit together, let's go. And I think what helped as a pivotal point in that game is Braddock was up and Hubert got the ball underneath the basket and he traveled before making the layup. And I thought it was a 3-point. I thought you even called a 3-point play. They called it travel. I said, oh, that's big. So we went down and ended up hitting a shot and got our confidence going because we was just passing the ball around. And then it dawned on us like, they can't take it from us. So as long as they're going to stay in the zone, we'll be fine. In the second half, they come out man. So, okay, this is what we wanted. This is even easier. Spread it out. And we just dribble all over the place and we'll go from there. And so it worked out.
Well, you think sometimes that a game with high tempo is exciting, but the game when the tempo was that slow and every basket means so much. Right. And if Lake Braddock can get a 4 or 5 or 6 point lead, they could break it open. I mean, the game was like so tense. I'll never forget that game. And I mean, you just couldn't take your eyes off it. And I don't remember how regulation ended.
Well, it ended kind of crazy because the thing about that game was whenever Hubert touched the ball, I don't think Hubert passed the ball all night. So whenever he got the ball, he shot it and it ended up going to the bottom of the net. I mean, none of his shots hit the rim. I was like, damn, we definitely got to hold the ball. So in the regulation, the score was tied. And I came down and I went to LeBron mode instead of Kobe mode, and I passed the ball. And somehow it got deflected and ended up in Sugar's hands, and he shot the ball and it went in. But they said it was after the horn. No, but they had a discussion. They couldn't tell if it was before the horn or not. So we ended up going in overtime. So at the end of regulation, the score was, what was it?
I think 28 all?
No, the final score was 46-43. So the score was 41 all.
Yeah.
Because to start the overtime, they go up 2. And at the end of overtime, we're down 2. I'm not passing this one. And Marcus Crockett fouls me shooting a shot, and I go to the line and tie it up. But I'm cramping. And Jason's dribbling the ball up the court. And I don't know, he probably doesn't remember this or not. I'm like, Jason, pass the ball. Pass it. I'm hurt. Pass the damn ball, Jason. Then I thought about it. Don't pass it to Hubert, but pass the ball. And Jason went. And when he shot, I tried to take a charge, and I fell down, and it came off. And I was trying to find this picture because I have a picture of Braxton getting that rebound. And when he got the rebound, there was 3 Lake Braddock guys around him, but he came out with that rebound, and Lorenzo just took off. And I'm on the floor, and I can just see Lorenzo running down the court with the ball. And I can't recall who pushed him, but Braddock pushed him, but he's still underneath the rope. And I saw the referee to put up this intentional foul. I think, okay, good. I got to just hit one, we may be fine. But it was a 3-point line. So even though we got fouled and Taylor hit 2 free throws, so Lorenzo missed 1, we only up 3, they can still tie it. Well, once they got the ball in balance, and luckily for us, it hit the backboard, and that was it, and everybody stormed the court.
Yeah, I know they stormed the court. It was crazy. Yeah. So Jason, we have not talked about this game much over the years. We talk about basketball all the time. Obviously, it must have been a devastating moment.
Yeah, I started to mention earlier just the heaviness that I realized later in life, but also it was something we just knew we were going to be heading down to Richmond after that game. There was a time period where it just was this exceptional jubilation for a season, and like it just, I mean, like the story goes, came to a halt. Just done. Just like couldn't believe, this Lake Braddock team that was going to be a state championship team was done. And so, there was a time period where it was hard for us to sort of collect and gather, but I think that's what helped us, as we went on with our college careers and, into our vocations that helped to make us the competitors we are. And I will say, I've heard obviously all of our coaches mention, McCool and Martino and Thompson, but there are other coaches that contributed to, all of us, and even doing this today and like who we are in just this Northern Virginia. So I think it is pretty special. But, from, Jim Warren over at West Springfield and Coach Warden, who's actually a neighbor of mine now, and guy at Annandale, Gary
Reedy.
Reedy, yeah, and of course, Red Jenkins. But those are people like we all saw them at different places, but they would take time to pour into us, and I think that's what contributed to that being such an incredible environment. And then even after the sort of high school finished, and a few of us, and that's where Bill and I became pretty tight, playing on the Virginia All-Star team together. We just ended up seeing some of these great people, whether it was men's leagues or just other places, from living out in Western Loudoun, catching up with Jackie Moore, but Jerome Scott, and just seeing what he's doing today, and our kids playing against each other, and he and Christy over there at South Lakes, and seeing what they're doing. But it's just cool. But it all started from that right foundation of what these coaches poured into us.
And I can echo that because we had Coach Metris was on our staff, who's doing a great job right now. So, and funny thing about Metris, he's on the sideline with a headset on during that game, and it was, and it was, we had nothing digital. He had the cord tucked into his jacket, and Eric Grinks at the top of the arena with the other headset on. They weren't talking; it wasn't even on, But he, every now and then he would act like he was saying something in it. So if you when they were filming the game, I guess it was on little cable television, whatever, the announcers would be like, one of the coaches on Mount Vernon, he's on the headset and he's talking to somebody, and you can see Meeks is doing this here like he's talking. There's nobody on the other end.
It's like playing a game.
There's a rule. You can't have headsets on the sideline.
Yeah. Well, Bill, let's get to the final now. You guys, Mount Vernon has to be drained. They just had a tremendous upset. And they've beaten you a couple times, 2 or 3 times probably already that year. So, but at least you're already in the state tournament, so it's not your last game. How do you guys feel going into the final?
Yeah, we felt confident. Again, we had trouble beating Barry and those guys for years. Back then in 7th grade, they just had our number. And the craziest part about it was the rivalry between Coach Thompson and Coach McCool. Yeah. I mean, Coach McCool being Coach Thompson's mentor. He was his mentor. People don't really recognize that fact, but he just had absolutely no good feelings for Don McCool. None. Zero. I mean, and he had us thinking that way too. Mount Vernon is the devil. They're Darth Vader, And so sometimes I think when we played those guys, we didn't have a chance because we were already psyched out before the game began. And if I recall correctly, I don't even know if we were winning at halftime. It was close to halftime, but I know one thing, they voted on the MVP at halftime. And I think that's the only reason I got it, because they voted on the MVP at halftime, thinking that we might win the game. But Mount Vernon was our kryptonite. We felt like we had a chance to win the game, but it was going to be hard to beat those guys.
Was that an up-tempo game? Was it back to normal basketball there? Did
They
you
were
guys?
back to normal. Yeah,
Yeah, it was back to
they
normal.
didn't have to slow down against the Lancers.
Yeah, we we've always whenever we played league, and again there was no love lost between the coaching staffs. It's just a couple of stories. Our junior year, we would come out, wait to warm up, we would wait for Lee to come out, so we come out at the same time. But we noticed that the nets in front of their bench, and normally you go to the bench, you go to the back before in front of your bench the second half.
Mhm.
So you warm with the opposite. So we noticed that their nets were hanging. And we was like, well, if they hang, then that slows the game down. The referee got to stop and get the nets down. Then we can't get the ball and run. So we waited for them to come out. And they had that Eye of the Tiger. We started with that song. And so as they were coming up, we were going to come out. And I was in front of the line. So we didn't go to the other end. I turned at half court and went back to the court that they normally warmed up on. So we're both warming up on the same court. And then we had to tell them, we're the visitors, we get to choose. So I guess now they changed that rule. So they were pissed off about that. But we play at Mount Vernon. Charlie, he moves the bench to the other sideline because he said our fans were, heckling them. So now when they check in, they got to run around the court to check in. I said, they like some damn fools. That's just giving us more time to rest between subs as they're running around the court. So.
Well, the problem, Barry, with beating Lee is that Indian River got upset in their regionals.
Yeah.
So, you beat Lee, you're excited, we're the regional champs. And, Charlie Thompson, he's a lucky guy sometimes.
Yeah.
So Lee gets a very good team, a Booker T. Washington team, but it's not quite Indian River and Alonzo Mourning. So you guys have to go down there and you got to play Indian River. Do you guys slow the game down against Indian River as well, or did you guys try to play with them?
We slowed it down a little bit because again they came out in the zone. Obviously they won the tip, and then they went down to threw the ball in the post, and Alonzo turns and scored when it went down 2-0, which is what we expected. We had no answer for him. I mean, we had much respect to Crawford Palmer, who's probably the biggest guy we've ever played against, but Alonzo was on a different planet, and so they go down. They're playing a 1-3-1, so we're passing the ball around, and I actually hit a 3 to put us up 3-2, and I think that was the only lead we had. And I think Alonzo blocked 12 shots, and I think 8 of them were mine. He was just unstoppable. And then that court. And another thing that happened before that game, I don't know if you can remember if you were there, they had an accident. So we're on the court. The game started real late. We had the game. We were waiting for them, and something happened with their bus. They had an accident, or the bus broke down. So we were like warming up, shooting them, trying to get off our feet, trying to stay loose. And that court was just so damn long. After a while, it just wore. And again, we weren't deep, and fatigue set in, and trying to play from behind, and we had no answer for him.
That was University of Richmond, right? That's where they
Yeah.
played. Okay. So Bill, you guys have Booker T. I can't remember who was on. I tried to get the program today. So did you guys? Did Charlie, Coach Thompson scout them? Did you guys know a lot about them, or did you just go in there and play your game against Booker T?
The funny part about it is very, you talk about that Lake Braddock game when they slowed it down. We slowed it down the whole state tournament.
That's right.
We put it in deep freeze. And, we beat Booker T in the first round in 3 overtimes. And they had tremendous athletes. There's no way we could get into any kind of running game with them. So we held the ball, and different than the 4 corners, we used to double stack delay game, where I had it in my hands a lot, and I passed it and got it right back. Passed it, got it right back. No shot clock, right? And so we beat Booker T in 3 overtimes. The next game we played John Marshall, who pulled off the big upset. And they got Milton Bell, McDonald's All-American. They got Warren Peoples, who ended up being a college All-American. They got Reggie Jones playing the NFL. You talk about athletes. They had athletes, right? And Coach Thompson, I'll never forget, this is the greatest pregame speech to this day, and I've been involved in a lot of basketball games. He goes, quote unquote, he goes, hey, look, this is what we got to do. If we come down, they win the tap. They're going to go down and score probably. It's going to be 2-0, all right? We're going to come down, hold the ball for a minute and a half, and we probably going to miss the shot. They're going to come down. They're going to try to score. They're probably going to miss. We're going to come down, hold it for another minute and a half, and then we probably make this, so it's 2-2. They're going to come down, and they're going to score on us again. It's going to be 4-2, all right? And then we're going to come down, hold the ball for the last 2 minutes of the quarter, and then probably miss. But at the end of the first quarter, we're going to be down 4-2, and they're going to all be pissed off because they told their girlfriend they're going to be up 20 at the end of the first quarter. That was his pregame speech. I kid you not.
Yeah.
And so we like, oh yeah, coach, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so we end up in a great ball game. And at the end of the game, I think it's a tie ball game. And coach wants us to play offense for the last possession. So it's like 15 seconds. They go in, we fouled them immediately, right? Because we want the ball back for the last possession. And so they make 1 out of 2 free throws. We come down. It's the last shot. And I think the play was actually run for Jeff Jiven. But me and Jason have the same mentality as we did for pickup games for years after that. We're taking the last shot. I don't care who the play is for. We taking the last shot, right? I'm taking the last shot, coach. I don't know
I
who
can
the play
attest
was
to
for.
that. I can attest to that.
Russell, in Bucknell, I did it several times. Play for somebody else. I'm taking the shot, right? And so, come down 1 and get into the lane, pull up, miss the shot, right? Milton Bell, he was strong, athletic, grabs the rebound. I fouled him as
Future Georgetown player.
Future Georgetown. I fouled him as hard as I could possibly foul a guy. Refs didn't call it. Ball drops out of his hand. Jeff Jiven tips it in for the game winner.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we beat them in 1 overtime.
So Bill,
of course,
go ahead, Bill.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I remember that shot. It goes in. I'm sitting behind the basket, and it was neutral. So I was just sitting anywhere. But it just so happens I was surrounded by John Marshall fans. So all game long, I kept my cool. I wanted to lead and win. Those my boys. I've known Bill for a long time too. So when Jeff hits that shot, I couldn't hold it. I stood up, and these guys, like 6 or 7 of them, just looked at me like they just want to take me out. And I was like,
and I tell you what, the funny thing
Mild
was,
way to say it.
because we were such underdogs, like the Hoosiers in Northern Virginia, they look at our team, they like, hell no, these dudes ain't winning no games. They got like the one black dude who plays point guard, and they got all these little white guys, right? Everybody's underestimating us, right? And so it became at the Robinson, that became our gym, because all of a sudden we beating all these teams that were supposed to blow us out, and now we in the state championship. So it's like Rocky 1. Everybody's chanting Rocky, and so here's again one of the most painful memories is we lose the state championship to a ridiculous squad. George Lynch is at Patrick King Road.
One of the best teams in history of the state.
Yeah.
Percy Covington, Bernard Basham, Russell Turner. I mean, they got a squad. And we lose to them by 3 points or whatever the final score was. But when you look at the tape, you see like 4 threes that they counted as 2s for us. Now, again, first year the 3-point line, right? So people aren't used to people shooting that many 3s. And especially in that part of the state, they weren't shooting 3s. And so when you look back, it becomes a painful memory. And I never do it. My teammates would tell me, and I went on and playing college and stuff. And I looked at it one day, I'm like, holy cow, we could have been state champions.
Wow. That was a great run. Well, look, guys, that was great. Let's go quickly to your college, your post high school and college career. So Russell, you had 1 more year, and you guys made a state run. If you want to kind of sum that up, and then tell us how you ended up in Bucknell.
Yeah, so senior year, it was 1 South Lakes, 2 Chantilly in the region. We lost to them in the districts, we lost to them in the district final, we lost them in the regional final, and it just goes back to, I think that core was solidified my junior year, and we just kept it going through the summer, going to camps, getting in the car, driving to Nottingham's and playing outdoors, and me and Dwayne Franklin, an athlete like you were talking about, Jason, with your teammate, freak athlete. And, he and I were in the backcourt, and Havy had that high release. Folks couldn't guard it. And we made our run in the regionals, Hayfield, Wakefield. Because we lost our district, we had to travel to Wakefield, beat them. Better had a good team there. And who was a third? Oh, we went to overtime against West Springfield. I had a continuation that probably shouldn't have been called. They could have called a charge, but I got the block and the continuation, and won that game for us. And then we lost to Grant, but we did get the bid to states, and that's about when I started getting my letters. I really wasn't recruited until mid senior year. Mike Jarvis was at Boston at the time. Old Dominion recruited me. Bucknell, I took a trip to Bucknell and caught up with Bill, and he showed me around, and I think they had just went to they were going to the NCAAs, right, his freshman year. So I wanted to do engineering, And so that led me to Bucknell. Now, I had applied and I was, bound for Maryland. I was a Lynn Bias fan and wanted to do Maryland out of state, Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. I had gone down there for an engineering program. And so I looked, that's the route I was going to go if the Bucknell offer didn't come through, if the basketball offers didn't come through. But my biggest story was during the, as you guys did, the All-Star tour, went down to Lynchburg and what have you. John Thompson showed up at a practice. And I was like, there's no way he is looking for me, and he, big man, comes over to me and says, so what makes you think you can play at Georgetown? And I was like, sir, I didn't know I put my name in your pool. Very nice gentleman. He sat on the floor and was watching us practice, and that was my funny story. And Jarvis, put me on a plane to Boston University, and then when I got back, he was very professional and told me that he was going to take the GW job and didn't have a scholarship for me. And so I ended up at Bucknell, which, I have no complaints. I made friends for life, met my wife there, Bill and I, we still friends, and we still, communicate and I play with some ballers, and I'm proud to say that a lot of my teammates went into the Hall of Fame there, and while I'm not in the Hall of Fame, my picture's in the hallway, so it's all good.
Yeah. One of my good friends, Russell, is Gerald Purnell. He was in my wedding with Jason, and Gerald was a Bucknell legend. He played for Jim Valvano, and he used to always keep me up to date with you guys. He would tell me what was going on with your games, because he knew you guys are from Northern Virginia, and I was following you guys. So Jason, why don't you go next? So after obviously a big loss, but you got yourself back on your feet and you started thinking about colleges. How'd you end up in Lenoir-Rhyne?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate with interest from a lot of different schools, and man, it seemed like the letters, even after our sophomore year, started piling up. Back then, yes, there were letters, paper mail. And so, it was always one of those, I knew I was going to go to probably one of these, ID ones. This is what I thought I was doing. And, Bill and I were fortunate. In those days, the AAU circuit was a lot different than it is today, meaning it was a true privilege to be able to make an AAU team, because there weren't ones where mom and dad, didn't work. They weren't playing there. We're just going to start one up. But we had to go across the bridge and played on a PG team. So actually, Charlie Shelley was the one that introduced us to it with some interest from somebody that he knew. But Hubert, Bill and I were all on the same team. Big Frank had me hooked up with a couple things. So anyway, short version is, through one of the things Coach Wells provided to us, the top things that require zero talent, just being on time, being prepared. And I'm sure everybody's seen those different slogans, but that's what helped me with just being committed to trying to figure things out. And so again, short version is after Virginia All-Star game, when things kind of fell off, a lot of folks were going to see me at the state tournament, downstate as it was called. Thankfully, I did well in our Virginia All-Star games, and Rick Barnes, who somebody I was talking to, who was over at Mason at the time, referred one of his buddies, and the head coach there was at Lenoir-Rhyne. So that's the short version. And just went down there, South Atlantic Conference, had a great career. And after my time there, the amateur status was done. I had to play on this ACC All-Star circuit, so I had a chance to play with Hubert again. So what that was, we went around different places in the ACC conference, even though there were a couple of us that weren't ACC, but we were invited to play just because, we did well in our careers. And so we went to different places in Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina. And so I got to play not just with Hubert, but Christian Leitner, Tom Gugliotta. Anyway, a lot of the ACC greats. So that was a lot of fun. And so those guys, of course, later on are going to get their contracts. And somebody with our school sent me out to a trial in Chicago. And unfortunately, that worked out. But, just got to, still get across the pond to see some things and play nothing to have a career, but like Coach Courtney there. But and then it was in the men's leagues and a couple of these semi-pro leagues here, and playing with the WLBL and seeing You know, guys like Sherman Douglas and, you know, big, who was that, Clay Buckley and Julian, we played in there together, but, you know, it was just working hard. And so ended up playing, I guess the last of it is the DC Explorers was one of these exhibition teams. And so played with them later on in '99, I think it was. And, you know, we'd go around, you know, from University of Denver to UVA. And so anyway, it was that was fun. And then it turned into the Nantucket Nectar. So just been blessed by the game and just all these people. And, you know, thankfully Coach Courtney, you know, Hubert's been good to me. In fact, Hubert, his first year at the Knicks, you know, flew me up, got to enjoy seeing what his life was about. And it was just amazing. But even in '94, when they were in the NBA championships against the Houston Rockets and MSG, I mean, what an environment that was to be there. And like, you know, could have had a host of people there, but he made time for me. And just, it was so cool afterwards going to dinner. And, you know, Doc Rivers at the time who was playing, and Anthony Mason, those guys, and hanging out. But yeah, so anyway.
Jason, you're a great example, like Todd Blondin as well. You don't have to go to the best school for basketball in the world. Sometimes you can go somewhere where you're going to play, and you can have a great career without going to, you know, an ACC school or whatever. You know, you went to somewhere you probably could have gone to a bigger name school, but you got a chance to play and you had a great career, and you got better every year.
You know, part of it was giving back to our parents, you know, because they put so much into this for us too. And that was one of the few places that, you know, said, hey, we want to take care of you. And, you know, was able to sign with them. And others were, you know, partial scholarships or, you know, hey, we got a spot for you. And so, yeah, it was tremendous. And, you know, through all of that, and, you know, thanks to, you know, this game, I mean, even as, you know, most of y'all know my man, Durham Marshall, that's how I met my wife. And, you know, just blessed and you know, having a son that is now, you know, doing what we used to do in a different way, but it's cool watching him grow in this game. And, you know, one last thing I wanted to bring up, that senior year. So there was Russell, you brought up the connection. That reminded me of, they did an article one year, it was called Jam Masters. And there was a few of us that were known for getting a lot of dunks in games. AKA could jump out the gym. Well, I was the one that couldn't really jump out the gym. I just, you know, could get down the floor, and I just had a lot of dunks. But it was Kim Lisenby over at Edison, Marcus Crockett, Terrence Knuckles, and the man that we all know, Jackie Mother Stinking Moore, who could just fly. But in that article, they had Jackie with the, you know, they had the big picture, the showcase there. And then they had the four of us down low, the other ones. And of course, they had my one dunk where I'm going in for a reverse, but the ball's coming out the back of the rim. And I never understood why they put that picture in. But part of that was the fatigue I had in my legs, because we did that shoot over at George Mason. And it was after one of those practices where things weren't going particularly well. So we stayed a little extra, and I was exhausted. But anyway.
That's great. Well, Barry, I know you ended up eventually playing for your brother at Old Dominion. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after my senior year, through the process, I thought I was headed to VCU. That was where I thought, you know, Stan Nance was the assistant coach there, and you know, Mason came into the picture as well, but they went with Mike Hargett, which was a pretty good decision, because Mike Hargett, I don't know if you guys remember him, he was a monster. But there was a situation there, there was a little coaching mix up there at VCU. So Ed Webb, who was also affiliated with VCU at the time, reached out, whose dad coached my brother ODU's first year, Paul Webb, said, well, you know, I'm here to make a phone call. Next thing you know, I'm headed to JUCO down in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I have never, talk about a different lifestyle. This school, the gym was smaller than Lee's gym. I mean, there was the bleachers only on one side of the floor. Now, if you see it now, they refurbished everything. Well, back then, they didn't even have dorms. So I was like, where are we staying? And they was like, we stay on the beach. We stay on the beach. So first semester, we stay in hotels on the beach. This ain't bad. So now we got a maid that comes in, make the bed up every day. You get fresh linen. We on the beach. second semester, they move us off the beach to the mainland because they have all our MTV and all the spring break stuff. But for summer school, back in May, they put us back on the beach. Well, this is nice. So I could have left after my first year because I had qualified academically. But I decided didn't like what I was with my offer, so I stayed and took a visit to Howard. And when I'm coming back from Howard, I was supposed to go to Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham, which would have been great. They played in the Sun Belt at the same time, so I'll at least get back up there and play against ODU and so on and so forth. But when I get back from Howard, I get a call from Stan Nance, who's now at ODU, and it was like, we got a spot, we need a point guard. You want to come? And I was like, yeah. So I called my mom, and she was like, you sure you want to do that? That's where Frankie went to school. You sure you want to do that? I said, Mom, not a problem. Come back home. So called Frank and said, this was going on. He was like, you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'm coming back. So had a good time in Daytona Beach. My freshman year, we finished 17th in the country. Sophomore year, I got injured. Still had a pretty decent year. Ended up at ODU. One of the things that appealed me to go to ODU is that I saw the schedule. They said, well, we're going to be in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm thinking, really? Never left, the continent. So this is going to be all right. So we look at the teams. And I was like, Bucknell on here. I'm mad at Bucknell. So we get down there, and I didn't know Russell was there. So I had met Russ years ago. I was in the basketball coach. My cousin had a cousin went to Wakefield as well. That's why I met Russ for the bus out in Wakefield. In Arlington. So we get to San Juan, and I see these jokers. Man, listen, we had a ball. We had beaten Northern Iowa the first game. This was the year after Northern Iowa had upset Missouri the year before in the NCAA tournament. So we joined Northern Iowa the first game, and I got Chris Gatlin on that team, Ricardo Leonard, Keith Jackson, who's down head coach of Phelps. And so we go and we beat them, and we just had a good time. And went to Illinois with the kid from Deion Thomas was at Illinois. Then we played Murray State with Popeye Jones, which was he was a beast. But we had a great time hanging out with Bill because I playing against those guys in 7th grade and not having like kids now they have social media where they can connect, they can text. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
And
especially everyone's us against the world. Everyone's us against the world back then.
And that's how I was. And when after the season was over, we have the high school game, and myself and Bill and we were playing in the preliminary Capital Classic game. Come to find out that Bill's mom worked with my dad at Metro, and Jason was driving. So they would drive us. So we in practice in a vehicle driving over to Maryland, and we just had a ball. And I was like, y'all are cool.
Blue station wagon that Coleman had.
That's right.
Blue station wagon.
Yeah. And
the blue wagon, baby. We used to.
We was on it, and I was like, these guys, had I known then, because I just thought, Bill is at lead. I don't like them. He was, with Charlie. We don't deal with those dudes, and Jason and Braddock, and but we had a good time. We just the best part of the practice was riding back and forth, and then when we got there, what they do is, of course, they're gonna split you up. But the Maryland guys gonna play against Virginia guys. Okay, y'all, you guys want to do this? So I'm out there. I'm talking trash, and I'm not even shooting. I'm just coming down the court, pass the ball to Bill. Throw the ball to Jason or whatever. I'm just there, just talking to you. You ain't doing nothing. I ain't got to do nothing. You're doing all the work. Y'all better stop him. So, and so we just I saw that bond, and then they had breakfast over at Bill's house before the game. And Miss Hattie could cook. Oh my God, that was some good food. So we had a good time. Just that relationship in itself. But that time it was just a fast forward to go to Puerto Rico and to hang out with those guys. And it was a ball. So ODU was fun. Lost a conference championship game in South Alabama my junior year. Then we changed conferences. Now we're in the CAA, and then we ended up winning that as a 4th seed. We upset Richmond in the semifinals, was number 1 seed, and then we get to the championship game to play Madison. And I saw that purple and gold again. That just took me back 4 years early. I ain't seen that purple and gold, so I'm in good shape. So we beat Madison and went to the tournament and ran up against Rick Pitino in Kentucky. And it was we were down 2 at half. And next thing you know, they started shooting threes and got a little out of hand. But that was the first time I was ever on a charter flight coming back. And since I was of age, and I knew I wouldn't play another game of basketball, That was the best fight I ever had.
Mm.
I was like, if we're gonna go down, I ain't gonna feel a thing. We had a good time, but that was my experience. And I got out of college and cooked up with Coach Meeks over at Hayfield and coached with him for a while, and then went over to Mount Vernon with Tracy Scruggs for a couple years, and then got down here to Prince William County after coaching the AAU team, got the job at Hilton, and I've been doing that since just completed my 15th season.
Wow.
Had the opportunity to coach my son, which was great. Went to my first state tournament with him, with his class of 2016, which I thought was a loaded team. But the following year, we actually made it to the state championship game and lost in overtime. The Woodson had a chance to. So, Bill, I know, I feel your pain, Bill.
Yeah.
And I have yet to look at that film. I don't think I ever will look at it because I'm still having nightmares. That shot goes in, I got a ring. But it was a great experience.
Well, great. Well, Bill, why don't you end us up with how you got to Bucknell, and maybe after that you can quickly go through your coaching career as well.
Yeah, well, before my senior year, we were playing down in the Sidwell League, and Charlie Woolham, the head coach at Bucknell at the time, identified me as a guy he wanted. All right, and so we get to September, and again, I don't understand recruiting. I'm a Division III recruit at the time, and he comes to my house, and with my guy Mark Travis, who I mentioned before, and Mark Travis from Alexandria, and Charlie's from Alexandria. So before they start the home visit, literally talk to each other for 3 hours about Alexandria basketball. All right, Mount Vernon, TC, all the great teams, all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there, my mom just sitting there like trying to figure out what's going on. But Charlie was my guy right from then. We get to the state tournament. I still have no idea. Recruiting happened so much later than, and I had no idea where I was going. We made the championship. I started getting a little bit more interest. Calls were coming in to Coach Thompson. He was telling me different places. But really, my offers at the time were Bucknell and Army, right? And I went on an official visit to Army. And basketball-wise, they were telling me I'm going to start. I'm going to be the man. But I just couldn't deal with that military. I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I went to Bucknell. I had one on a visit with Greg Leggett, who played at Marshall High School. He was class 86. He was my host. And Charlie had stuck with me throughout the year. So whoever knew was coming in, it didn't matter. I was going to Bucknell because that was my guy. He showed that he cared about me and was going to really be an integral part of their program. And so I decided to go to Bucknell then. Didn't play at all my freshman year, played a little bit, played on the JV team, but we had a great team, went to the NCAA tournament, won the East Coast Conference Championship at the time, was a part-time starter as a sophomore. And then, kind of between my sophomore and junior year, it all kind of clicked in for me and, ended up being the leading scorer in the league and, all league and all that kind of stuff for my last 2 years. After that, I always knew I wanted to coach, but, I'd actually become a pretty good player. So I thought I was going to play. And, I thought I was going to be in the NBA, didn't play in the USBL, went out to the free agent, stuff in the LA Summer League at the time. And then ended up playing over in Asia, over in Hong Kong and in the Philippines. And that was an incredible experience, really, really an incredible experience. And, during that time, Jason's sitting there laughing because we became really tight. Me and Jason, I stayed at Jason's house for a while. Like, that's my guy. Right. And Russ said he knows the feeling Barry had of passing the ball and Bill going to shoot it because that's the same feeling Russ had in college, But Barry talks about that Puerto Rico trip. It's serious. We always talk about that. We were talking about that before we got on the call with all of our teammates, talking about the Puerto Rico trip. And that was kind of Russ's coming out party. That was his sophomore year, my junior year.
I was going to say when Barry talking about that. Yep.
Yeah, he came off the bench and I'm yelling at him because, my personality. I'm yelling at Russ. I'm gonna call your father when we get up, tell him how you moving down here.
Did you guys get some good run together? Did you and Russell play a lot together, or were you guys?
Oh yeah. Russ still blames me for not starting all of his junior year, and he's right because I was the point guard, right? So they decided my senior year to move me off the ball because I was a scorer. And Russell moved into the star lineup and took Chris Simpson's place because Chris Simpson was playing it too. Another Northern Virginia.
St. Stephen's. Chris Simpson from St.
If
Stephen's.
I could jump in, Bill. So I got my first start junior year. Right. And Bill moved over to the 2. I set the school record, 16 assists.
Wow.
Right? 3 games later, Bill goes back to the point.
Gotta have the ball.
Because that was his game. And I understood that, and it's not who starts, it's who finishes, and so that was a humbling experience, and it worked. We got to the conference championship, but go ahead, Bill.
No, that's exactly what happened. And Russ used to always, because we were roommates too. Now, we were roommates, and Russ would always be mad at me because I made him lose his starting spot because I couldn't score without the ball in my hands. Like, that was kind of the thing. It's like a weird thing. Now that I've been coaching for so long, I understand that a little bit better. But, so yeah, had a good career there, went overseas, and then got into coaching immediately. I actually spent time with that Robinson team, the guys that ended up winning the Region 95 with Coach Thompson. Before I would coach at Robinson, and Addis and, Willie Callahan.
Willie
and all those
Callahan,
guys from
yeah.
sophomore.
Mhm.
Yeah, I coached those guys, and I would go overseas and play and then come back. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I got into college coaching. And I'll give you the stops real quick because there's a lot of them. Went to Lafayette College. That only lasted about a month. Went to American University with Chris Nockey. Got my first full-time job with Coach Larry Nagel at Bowling Green. Then we came back after 1 year, got the Mason job, and I was with him for 8 years at Mason. After Mason, I went to Providence for a year, came back, went to UVA for 3 years. After UVA, went to VCU for a hot second when Shaka got the job. Then I left to go to Virginia Tech for a year, got the head coaching job at Cornell where I was there for 6. After there, I went to DePaul for 2 years, and now this will be my 3rd year at University of Miami, back to Coach Larry Nagel. So it all comes full circle. I'm back with my mentor, absolutely loving it. Great place to be. I'm blessed to still be in the game of basketball, being around people I love, and the relationships that I've made. In particular, all 4 of you guys on the call right now. All my relationships and all my life has been about the game of basketball. Heck, I met my wife on the basketball court at Marymount where she was playing.
She's a good player.
And Cole, we used to take her to the playground with us and play pickup with us, And so this game has blessed me with so much. And I'm so fortunate to still be involved in it that I feel very, very blessed.
And so Russell, so you and Jason, we know Barry and Bill are coaching. What are you and Jason up to? Why don't you go first?
So I'm with the government, been with the government 12 years, but still involved with the community, coaching boys. I've got twins, 17-year-old juniors, and I coach my son. We're doing the AAU circuit right now. We just started up. Matter of fact, we're going to be at the Sportsplex in Dallas this weekend. Good group of kids, but try and stay active, involved and I'm blessed. I'm blessed, 2 healthy kids and getting ready for college and all that good stuff. And Bill knows my dad and my family and he was so excited to watch me play college ball that he would get on the court during warm-ups, and be in the way, you know what I mean? He didn't know any better, Arlington cat, you know what I'm saying? He didn't know any better, but he's with me still. I lost my mom in 15. He's a couple miles away at an assisted living facility. And I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine.
Hey, Russ, now I got to jump in on your story.
What's that?
The funniest part about Papa Payton is he would be at the end of the warm-up line with some shoes that Russ had gave him, try to grab rebounds while we warming up, right? But not only that, the most surprising thing about him was he was so shocked when Russ came on his visit that there were girls on the same floor as us. He almost lost his mind. He said, "Russ, you got girls on the same floor? Oh, Russ, you got to come to school here." Hey, Bill, don't worry about it. He coming to Bucknell.
That's like coming to America.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm doing good. I'm doing well.
You forgot
Got
about
a big
that
birthday
cobbler.
coming up this weekend, so it's Yep.
It's about 10.
Forgot about that cobbler.
Yeah. It's about 10. Go ahead.
But and Jason, he gets into his college. He came to visit Bill, and we showed him around. We had a good old time, man. It's just friends for life, and during the summer when we were at camps and things, we get out, ball, and hang out. It's all good stuff, man. It's all good stuff.
And came to the house and had some of Mama's good peach cobbler.
Man.
Hooked it up for all of us.
So about 15 years ago or so, I've been in small business myself most of my career, and I knew Jason was in kind of like disaster recovery, like when there's floods, they come in and they dry the basement or fire, whatever they do rebuilds. And I knew at that point, I'm like, man, this guy is in an incredible industry because with global warming, the floods were getting worse every year, the storms were getting worse, and I was like, man, Jason really found it. I knew at that time you were going to be incredibly successful. So why don't you tell folks what you've been doing?
No, I've been, very fortunate to be, here. Jenkins Restorations is the company, and we do insurance repair work. So if there's damage to a property, fire, water, wind, storm, then our companies will get involved. So right now, everybody knows about Texas and the freeze that happened, which is, the 100-year freeze. So we are very busy. We have 4 offices that were impacted there. So, this is my 24th year with the business, and became a partner back in 2008. So, went from working in the business to working on the business, and a lot different mentality, but very fortunate. So, I always say my wife is the real athlete in the family. My wife, who went to Notre Dame, was a swimmer there. And, I think that's where our kids pick up their talent. And, as I said, I have an oldest 17-year-old who plays at West Springfield this past 2 seasons. And we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next year. You brought up, the independent schools earlier, Julian, versus, public schools. And, everybody's situation is different. And it's definitely not like it was when we were in school, because, Dennis Scott, man could shoot the lights out. And, did he need to go to Flint Hill? Maybe, maybe not. I think he lived out in Western Mountain. We used to come up to those Lake Braddock runs. But anyhow, and by the way, Dennis is just an incredible individual. I hadn't met him, but, have some mutual friends, and from afar, just, love the success that he's been involved with. But anyhow, that was, primarily the only people you heard were going to some of the independents, but we just had so much great basketball in Northern Virginia. And so anyway, today, it seems like there's different avenues, and of course, COVID has impacted things. And I'm not saying our son is going to go to, a big name school by any stretch of the imagination. He's working hard. He's going to do the best that he can. We just want to put him in the best opportunity to try and develop and mature with his game. And
I know somebody at Miami. That might be able to help.
Yeah, but then we have 2 other children. 3 others. I mentioned our daughter passed, Justice, and then Keziah and Titus are the 2 youngest, 12-year-old daughter and 10-year-old son too.
So you guys were incredible basketball players, and you guys are all very successful people. So you're just model, guys, former scholar athletes. You guys have done great. One thing you guys did that I didn't do when I was in school, I was never a great player. I was driven to be good after it was over, and I became a decent player as an adult. But you guys had the kind of career that I dreamed about. I mean, you guys all were on great teams, won important games, hit great shots, and you kept your success going through life. So, I want to thank you guys for doing this. I mean, I was really excited that you guys agreed to do this, because this is just an amazing panel. Hopefully maybe we can do it again. And I'm gonna keep it on. We can talk as long as we want. I'm gonna take us off the cord, but I just want to thank you guys for doing this. I think this was great.
Thanks for putting it together. You did a great job with 84, so it's nice to again connect with these guys and relive some good moments.
Oh, sure. Well, thanks.
Yeah. And then thanks, again, Julian, incredible. And I just can't thank enough all those coaches I mentioned before, but I really want to thank Coach Hensley and Coach Wells for, providing opportunities for me early on, because that set the foundation, I think, where I am as a person today too.
Sure. Awesome.
I appreciate the invitation, and I think it's just cool how, despite not seeing each other often, we're able to keep in touch, and the basketball stories always bring us back, and it's just, we're connected in different ways. Barry, you talk about Michael Tate, he married a cousin of mine,
Oh, wow.
And Jackie Moore, I used to, go to his dad's car deal, repair shop in Green Valley. My grandma lived right around the corner there in Shirlington, and it just, it's a small world. We're all connected and we're all blessed. And I just think this is cool,
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian, I
Well,
want to thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on this. Obviously, it's great to reminisce and connect. And, as you get a little bit older, you start appreciating all the times that you had, especially the people that you've dealt with. And, you got 4 great people on this call that I've known since I was, a kid. And it's great to see everybody, and great to see everybody doing well.
It is. Well, thanks for those kind words, guys. And again, stay on as long as you want.